Hello dear students, I am Anju Chima, PGT Commerce from Kendriya Vidyalaya Sangathan. In today's video session, we shall take up session 1 of the chapter Issue of Shares of class 12th Accountancy. Company Accounts, Issue of Shares, session 1. The topic that will be covered in today's session are meaning of a company and its types, nature and types of shares, that is equity share and preference share, type of preference shares, difference between equity and preference shares, meaning of share capital and its types, presentation of share capital in company's balance sheet. After learning this session, you will be able to state the meaning of a company and its features, explain different type of companies, understand the meaning of shares, differentiate between equity shares and preference shares, explain different type of share capital, describe the presentation of share capital in the balance sheet of the company as per Schedule 3, Part 1 of the Companies Act 2013. Dear learners, in class 11th, you all have studied about the company and its types. A company is a voluntary association of persons formed through the process of law for the purpose of carrying on some lawful business. The definition of company given by Professor Hannay is: a company is an artificial person created by law having separate legal entity with a perpetual succession and a common seal. Now, we discuss various type of companies based on the above features. Unlimited company. Unlimited company is a company where there is no limit on the liability of its members. It means when a company suffers losses and the company's property is not sufficient to pay off its debts, the private property of its members will be used to meet the claim of the creditors. Company limited by guarantee. The liability of the members is limited to the extent of the guarantee given by them in the event of the winding up the company. Company limited by shares. In such a company, the liability of the member is strictly limited to the extent of the nominal value of shares held by each of them. If a member has already paid the full amount of share, he or she will not be liable to pay any amount. Such company may be subdivided into the private, public and one-person companies. Private company, public company, one-person company. Now, we discuss about shares. Total capital of the company is divided into units of small denominations. Each such unit is called a share. Major type of shares are: first is equity shares. Equity share mean those shares which are not preference shares, that is, these shares do not enjoy any preferential rights. Thus, for the purpose of dividend and repayment of capital, the equity shares rank after the preference shares. Their rate of dividend is not fixed. It may vary from year to year depending upon the profits of the company. Equity shareholders may get higher dividend if the profits are large and may get nothing if there are no profits. Directors have the sole right of recommending dividends to such. They may not get any dividends if directors so choose in spite of large profits. That is why in financial terminology, the share capital raised through such capital is called as risk capital. The second is preference shares. Preference shares are the shares that carry the following two rights. First is preferential right of dividend to be paid as fixed amount calculated at a fixed rate, and second, on winding up or repayment of capital, a preferential right to be repaid the amount of capital before any amount is paid to the equity shareholders. Now, we learn about various types of preference shares as follows. We may broadly classify the preference shares as follows. With reference to dividend, the preference shares are cumulative and non-cumulative preference shares. With reference to convertibility, preference shares are convertible and non-convertible preference shares. With reference to participation, preference shares are participating and non-participating preference shares. In this slide, we will learn about concept of share capital and its various types. Capital raised by a company by the issue of shares is known as share capital. In the types of share capital, the very first is authorized share capital or nominal capital. The authorized share capital is stated in the memorandum of association and is the maximum share capital that a company can issue in its lifetime. The authorized may or may not be the same as issued share capital. The second is issued capital. Issued share capital is a part of authorized or nominal share capital that is issued for subscription by the company. Issued share capital cannot exceed the company's authorized share capital. Third, subscribed capital. Subscribed share capital is a part of issued share capital which is applied for subscription. For example, Nokia Limited issued 20,000 equity shares of rupees 10 each and 17,500 equity shares are applied. The subscribed share capital is rupees 1,75,000. Subscribed and fully paid up capital. It is the part of subscribed capital which has been fully called up and all the money has been received. Next is subscribed and not fully paid up capital. It is the part of subscribed capital which has not been either fully called up or either not fully paid up by shareholder. Called up capital. It is nominal value of share that has been called up by the company for payment by the subscriber towards the share. For example, the company has subscribed capital of 20,000 equity shares of rupees 10 each. Out of this value of rupees 10 each, the company has called up rupees 6. Then the called up capital will be rupees 1,20,000. Next is paid up capital. Paid up capital is a part of called up capital, that is, shareholders of the company have paid to the company. Continuing the above example, if the shareholders fail to pay rupees 6,000 out of the called up capital of rupees 1,20,000, the paid up capital shall be rupees 1,14,000 and call in arrears shall be rupees 6,000. It should be remembered that paid up capital is equal to called up capital less call in arrears. As you can see on the screen, an extract of balance sheet has been provided as per Schedule 3 of Companies Act 2013. Balance sheet is prepared in vertical form as provided in Schedule 3 of Companies Act 2013, in which first main head represent equity and liabilities having further subheads out of which share capital form the part of shareholders fund. Further, types are described in separate part of the balance sheet in the form of notes to account that we will cover in next slide. As we have already learnt about the balance sheet is prepared in two parts as per New Companies Act 2013. Other part is in the form of notes to accounts. It provide details about various subheads of balance sheet. That was the topic for today's session. I hope you all have understood it well. Before ending the session, let us have a quick recap of what we have learned today. We have learnt about company and its various types, nature and type of shares, that is equity shares and preference shares, meaning of share capital and its disclosure in the balance sheet as per Schedule 3 of Companies Act 2013. I hope you all have understood today's session very well. With this, we have now come to an end of today's session. I hope you have enjoyed it. Thank you very much. Happy learning.